Good day. This is my fourth weekly podcast, and I thank you for continuing to share and for giving me feedback. Please continue to share with your friends and let me have your comments as we build this as our space for information and informed comments on things Jamaican. We begin with the newspapers or news sources. Then I provide a little brief analysis of an issue of concern. Then a little bit on something that has helped or is helping to make the rock special. After that, it's my commentary, frankly speaking. That's followed by crosstalk with a guest or two on different sides of an issue. And we close out with Outlook, a brief pointer at what to look for in the coming week. The Sunday Gleaner, as well as the Observer, report on an important story about the empowerment of some workers at Ray and Nephew or Campari. According to the Sunday Gleaner's business section, quote, Jamaican employees emerge as the largest group outside of Italy to grab shares in the international take-up of the Campari Group share plan, proportionate to the size of the workforce, end quote. It's a first of its kind offer by Campari, which bought the brand name Jamaican Ray and Nephew Limited in 2012. The workers know a good thing, the stories suggest. Now the same business section of the Gleaner reports that sales in the gaming industry increased by 9% in the July to September quarter. Sales amounted to 36.5 billion Jamaican dollars, up nearly 10% on a similar quarter a year earlier. Now, one doesn't understand why the Gleaner chose to lead with a story that Philip Paulwell claims that Portia Simpson Miller chose him to take over her constituency after her departure. That story is captured here on Portia Chose Me. I don't understand why the Gleaner gave its entire page 2 to this story and went over Mr. Paulwell's political career. It can't be just because he turned 60 on Friday, a whole page of it. Across the page is a much more useful story about the value of the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, who, with his family, had declared assets of 192 million Jamaican dollars up to the time of the 2020 general elections. Now, that's a much more important story and worthy of the space. The Sunday Observer leads with a report about what a fugitive from Haiti is supposed to have paid to get landed in Jamaica, where he was held last Friday night. And that's a story suggesting that $12,000 was involved in changing hands to get that fugitive here. There's an interesting story about Duhaney Park and what is happening at the little green space you can see from the Washington Boulevard there. And also in the papers, there's a lot of commentary about maroons, murders, and politics. Now, onto Jamaican perspectives. Some of the games of yore are being forgotten or not being played so frequently anymore among Jamaican children and adults too. As I said last time, those games, ring games, board games, all sorts of games, depended a lot on contact or were done with at least two people engaging, not like the isolated, solo, detached, and focused arrangement of today's youths and adults with the phone, a laptop, tablet, or whatever device. I was reminded recently of dog and bone. No, we didn't call each other dog or dog. Dog or dog was no term of affection or endearment, not in the way you hear it nowadays, slung around by the young men feeling compelled to reveal their underwear in trousers halfway down their calves. Do those young men have no one at home to say, no, you can't go on the road like that? Dog and Bone involved two sets of people, though it could be played creatively with just two people. Each set of people, or each team, was at equal distance from some object called the bone in a ring. The object could be anything: an orange, a green banana, a piece of wood, a large marble, piece of rock, anything. The idea was for one member from each team, in some order, to run and try to seize the bone and run back to base without being tagged or hit or touched by the member from the opposing side. It wasn't a straightforward grab and run. If two of you, one from either side, got to the bone at roughly the same time, there was little point in grabbing and trying to run, or you'd certainly get tagged. What followed was an attempt at brain exercises, wearing down the other person by simulating or feigning a grab, for instance. Now, if that person from the opposing team slapped or tagged you before you actually touched the bone, you were the winner, or your team won that point anyway. But as you circled, etc., the aim was always to grab and run, or to trick the opposite number into slapping you before you grab the bone. Of course, speed was also involved in running away, having grabbed the bone. But it was a guile in facing the bone. The side that got the most bones without being tagged, or that dummied false tags, would win. I need not tell you that there were boys who loved to tag only girls. Now to my commentary. Frankly speaking, crime in Jamaica, particularly murder, has been dominating the news this past week in Jamaica. Frankly speaking, there were, to be sure, intermittent distractions along the way. Among those distractions or matters of little consequence was the cabinet shuffle. Frankly speaking, it brought no real surprises, and I don't know anyone who, looking on, is convinced that it will change the fortunes of the country or halt the decline into the quagmire. Jamaicans have long run out of hyperbolic references to crime or superlatives to describe the disgustingly awful and mindless bloodletting of many years now. Individual incidents, though, continue to shock. People droop for superlatives and hyperbole again after a 9-year-old boy, Gabriel King, was found in his mother's car with his throat slashed. Everybody knows by now that a woman, the boy's mother, was ambushed and dragged from her car a little out of Montego Bay, St. James, and that armed thugs drove the car away with the 9-year-old inside and later slit the throat of the innocent, defenseless boy. Police found the vehicle and the boy's body minutes after the attack on the woman who reported it. The Minister of Education called it, quote, pure, unadulterated evil, end quote. The Jamaica Observer newspaper headline writer must have wanted something stronger, but their headline screamed barbaric. That incident pushed out of public consciousness the murder of 2 women in a shop in faraway part of Westmoreland called White House. The gunmen took nothing, so, as the Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang said, it was clear that this was not a robbery. Frankly speaking, whatever the motives, murders continue to run away, staining the country. To borrow from the Gleaner's headline on the same story about the butchering of Gabriel, quote, staining the country with blood from east to west, end quote. Between Tuesday night at midnight and Wednesday midnight, there were 11 murders in tiny Jamaica. Frankly speaking, that would be equivalent to, on a per capita basis, 33 or more murders in 24 hours in London, or 50 murders in New York City in a single day. In those places, though, life wouldn't go on as usual. In the first 14 days of the year to Friday, there have been 50 murders in Jamaica. That was running at the 4-a-day average of last year. Now, I'm sorry to have disturbed you with so much detail of blood, but frankly speaking, that might explain why, for me, the exercise with the cabinet may be considered too trivial in the circumstance to warrant our time and thoughts. Frankly speaking, God knows, had there been any message, any national effort, any action of pulling together, at bringing this to an end, I'd have spent the time on that instead. Now to crosstalk, where we have two people taking different sides of or having a different take on the same issue. This week it's crime. One of our respondents takes it from the young as victims and the other looks at the victimized being the killers. Here first is Desmond Richards, journalist and businessman.
What more evidence do we need to understand that action can change things? What are we waiting for? Yet another raft of condemnation from all sectors of the Jamaican society following the brutal killing of another child in Jamaica. I recalled how worked up the nation was when 4 kids, including a 4-year-old Roshana Burford, were murdered in January 2013. Statistically, our children are among the annual murder rate of over 1,000 for the last 15 years. In 2013, the police reported that 1,600 children were murdered in Jamaica over a 12-year period. The police commissioner told us in 2018 that 353 major crimes were committed against our children, down from 481 the previous year. We were assured that the JSF continues to place high priority on the safety and well-being of our children. Empty talk, bag of mouth, very little action. The reality is children are being killed in their beds, at school, on the streets, in the arms of their parents, everywhere. Instead of action, we continue with the knee-jerk condemnation and empty promises from the officials. When are we going to get serious in this country? When are we going to realize that we are destroying the future of Jamaica?
That's Desmond Richards. And then here is Anissa Wilson Smith, youth advocate, author, and founder of Life Skills Publishing and Consultancy.
30% of Jamaica's population is made up of young people. The National Youth Policy 2017 to 2030 reveals that young people are the main perpetrators and victims of crime and violence. Therefore, if we are to solve the crime in Jamaica, we must focus on the youth. But not only do we need to focus on the youth, we must focus on the systems that are socializing our young people. The fact that we're getting this result, it means that something is drastically wrong with the systems of socialization. And I believe that the missing ingredient from how we are socializing our young people is the fact that positive youth development principles are not being utilized. Therefore, I recommend that every agent of socialization, every single school at all levels, every single church, every single home, that they are aware of and that they practice positive youth development principles. We need to see our young people as assets rather than as liabilities. Positive youth development ensure that we build young people who are confident, young people who are competent, young people who are caring, young people who have solid characters, and young people who serve their country, who serve their communities well. Positive youth development, that is the missing link.
That's Anissa Wilson Smith. Now, looking ahead, this week could see more efforts of the security apparatus making a bid to push back crime. It is to me commendable that Azoso has been declared in a part of Savannah Lamar, Westmoreland, has been just going down and being consumed by crime. We'll have to consider it another time, but look out for more on the Zoso declared Sunday morning by the Prime Minister. And we should see reduced crime this week and certainly fewer murders in Westmoreland. That could possibly provide space for a discussion to widen about the report by the Professor Patterson-led Commission on Education. Believe me, that deserves our time. Thank you for being with us again this week for this, our 4th podcast. Please let me have your comments and share and subscribe. I'm Franklin McKnight. Good day.